Who's got the air conditioner off? Just remember to light my candles. Got my iPad. Joanne's here, Kim's here, you guys are here. I think we're ready. Welcome. So glad to have you. Thank you for being here. It is a wonderful summer's day. You know, like typical Chicagoans, oh my gosh, it's so hot out there, and pretty soon it's going to be so cold out there. And you got the few beautiful days in between. And you realize that life does have its ups and its downs, its joys and its sorrows. But may I invite you to do what we do. Take a good deep breath and breathe in the power of a presence and a mystery that is there at all times, in all places. It's already inside of us, loving us, giving us a deep well of courage and strength so that we might live life to the fullest with joy and gratitude. And let us begin. I have come so that you might have life and have it abundantly. Our reading for today comes from the Gospel of Matthew. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Well, some say John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." And Jesus said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered, You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. You know, perhaps you were here a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Jesus walking on the water of the Sea of Galilee. And I mentioned that I happened to be there, floating on a boat in that sea. Well, during that same retreat, I had the wonderful experience of being at Caesarea Philippi as well. It is in the north of Israel, and it is lush, and it is green. And I remember buying cherries from a fruit stand nearby. And the Jordan River actually begins right there, only they call it Harmon Springs. So it's not quite a river, but it's bigger than a creek, but it's fast flowing, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And actually, it's it is an ancient city, and it was built by Herod the Great. And he carved into the stone, they're kind of like bluffs, they're not really mountains, but he carved into the stone sides of these bluffs both images of Caesar Augustus, who, by the way, considered himself, as did all Roman emperors, to be the Son of God, and the Greek god Pan. Now, why Jesus brought his followers up there, I'm not exactly sure, no one really is, but a lot of folks went up there for a respite from the hot, dry desert because it was just so beautiful and so different. It is there that Jesus asked his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is, meaning himself? You know, last week we talked about Jesus growing in his understanding of his mission. In Jesus' time, and I'm told it is still true today, in Mediterranean cultures, much unlike American culture, in Mediterranean cultures, people don't say, this is who I am. They ask their friends, their community, their families, who am I? It's a different cultural way of being. Americans, we like to stand on our own 2 feet, be very independent, pull ourselves up. But the folks in those cultures get their identity from the group. That is why Jesus asks, well, what are people saying? Well, they named the prophets. And Jesus, it is very often said that he understood himself to be a prophet. He never claimed the title of Messiah. But then he turns around and he says, okay, that's fine. That's what the guys, everybody else out there is saying. But who do you say? Who do you say I am? Now these disciples, Peter and the others, they were his closest friends. They had been with him in and out, up and down the countryside, seeing when he was accepted and rejected. And Peter blurts out, you are the Son of the living God. You are the Messiah. And Jesus said, stop. Don't tell anybody. Now this story is in 3 Gospels, which means it's true. If you get one story, no one else mentions it, well, maybe not. But in 3 Gospels, scholars believe it's true. So why did Jesus say, don't tell anybody? Wouldn't you think it'd be a good thing to share, if you're trying to get people to believe you, what you're preaching and saying? The suggested reason, and it makes sense to me, and I'd like to see later, tell me if it makes sense to you, is that Peter got it right, but he only got it right on one level. When Jesus blurted out, you are the Messiah, he was thinking along the traditional understandings and beliefs about the Messiah of the Jewish people. 1,000 years before Jesus, there was the great Temple of Solomon. Israel was a strong nation, tiny but strong. She stood on her own amongst the great powers of the day. She had this magnificent temple. She was in her glory. There was peace in the kingdom. And when the Romans came and destroyed all of that and tore down the temple, the Messiah was to come and rebuild the temple and put Israel back into her place of righteousness, place of power, place of strength, standing up with the big guys, maybe even the biggest of the big guys. Jesus knew that if he was the Messiah, which he didn't readily accept, that he was not that kind of a Messiah. He knew he was not going to rebuild a physical stone temple. He knew he wasn't interested in making the kingdom of Israel the strongest nation among nations. Because you see the way he preached, the way he loved, the way he fed, the way he comforted, the way he healed. Think of all those stories where the kingdom is inside. Don't look out there, look inside, where 2 or 3 are gathered. Those times there wasn't a difference between the state kingdom and God's kingdom. So that the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of God were one and the same. Only the people, the Jewish people's expectation was that it was going to be a politically and militarily strong nation. And Jesus knew it was a nation of the heart. He knew that it wasn't up to military might, but how big could we love? Now, we know how popular that is. It's not very popular today, and it wasn't very popular long ago. So that is more than likely why he said, don't tell them. Tell no one that I'm the Messiah, because they're going to put expectations on me that don't belong, and I cannot fulfill them. I won't fulfill them, because that's not how I understand God. I think this story is as important and true today as it was in his time. Jesus came to be our leader in the way of compassion, inclusion, forgiveness, mercy, generosity. He came to challenge those ideas. Israel was supposed to take on the identity of Yahweh in her understanding of what it means to be a great nation, but instead, as we all do, instead of being made in God's image and likeness, we make God in our image and likeness. Story goes that we are made in God's image and likeness, and then we return the favor. So because Israel wanted a strong God, a strong nation, God was strong. And because Israel wanted a place among the great nations of earth, they knew that's what God wanted. But Jesus knew differently. Who we choose as a leader, if the people followed Jesus because they believed in his message of kindness and compassion and generosity, and mercy. You know, when you follow people, you take on their values. Or maybe you follow them because their values align with yours. Or maybe you don't have those values to begin with, but you can see what's happening in his life or her life, and you think, yeah, I want that. And so you adapt their values. The people in Jesus' day began to understand him as a healer and a compassionate one, and that in turn affected their lives. Remember, Jesus sent the apostles 2 by 2 to go heal and dispel demons and all that. He sent them out to do what he did. That's important. It's important for us. Who we choose to follow will form our lives, will form us. Do we choose a leader that, demands military strength and, power? Or do we choose a leader who motivates us to love ever broader, show compassion, show kindness, to build each other up, not to squelch each other down? That is what Jesus was trying to get at with his followers. Don't tell them I'm a Messiah, they're going to get the wrong idea. Just come follow me. Do as I do. You can do the things that I can do and greater. But it doesn't mean greater power of fist and might, but a greater power of the heart. We all have a choice. He never said, you must do this. He said, come along, follow me. So the question before us this day is, who do you say Jesus is? And whom do you choose to follow? Amen. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple of brief announcements. Let's see, the rummage sale is happening. They're spreading things out wider so people are not, condensed in small groups, only letting certain numbers of people go into the rummage sale at a time. It happens next weekend. You can continue to drop off donations up until Wednesday at 3 p.m. over at the farm. People are there to help you get it out of your car from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. And then we're done accepting. I don't know about you, but every year at the end of the rummage sale, I go home and I look at something and it's like, that could have gone. So I start my box for next year already. It's crazy. The other thing is we could use a volunteer. If anybody's interested, even if it's only every other month, I need, if you'd like to bring flowers for chapel on the 4th Sunday of the month, if that's something you'd be interested in doing, please let me know. And it is Joanne's birthday today. We can't sing, but happy birthday, Joanne. Little birdie told me so. Thank you all for coming. Labor Day weekend, I believe it's September 6th, this is Sunday. Don't come to the lodge, weather permitting, it's Chapel in the Pines. So we've normally done that on Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend, and we're gonna do it on Labor Day. So if you have one of those nice portable chairs, bring it along. We always have green plastic chairs out there. You can either park in the farm parking lot and walk the farm road back, or you can drive back there and park back there. And we will serve communion because it's the first Sunday of the month. So if it's raining, we'll have somebody in the farm parking lot telling you to come on back over here, and we'll have service here. Anybody else got anything they want to share?
The lady that did the presentation on gratitude at St. Fabian comes here, and she knows her, and she's still at St. Fabian, and I'll be at the Pantry and Adoration Chapel tomorrow.
Well, you've always got a really busy.
There's one of my prayer books talks about volunteering.
You do a lot of that, Ken. You do a really good job of helping other people and volunteering. Thank goodness for that, and thank you. Well, with that being said, Kim, if you would please. Oh, mysterious one. When we become frightened and scared, when we're lost and don't know which way to go, it seems to be a knee-jerk reaction. We want someone to come and make it all right. Be strong, be powerful, because we feel so powerless. But you sent Jesus to teach us that the way of power is powerlessness, but it is not being a doormat. It is being strong in integrity and spirit and love and kindness and mercy and generosity. And it is those values that make the strong invincible, because no one can defeat it. No one can take it away from you. Holy One, open our hearts and open our minds to the wisdom of your way, that it is not by power over, but power with, that we transform this world into the kingdom of heaven on earth, in your image and likeness, not in our own. We give thanks for all of those who reach out a helping hand. We thank God for all those who volunteer, who stop and smile, who do with what they can, with what they have, where they are. And if we could each do that wee little bit, the whole world would be transformed into your heaven. And it shall be so. For your word is the final word. For love, in the end, is what shall be. And in this, we have faith. And in this, we give thanks for Jesus, for each other, for life, and of course,